All right, so for the longest time, I've been a hater on the Americana as a submission, paintbrush, whatever you want to call it. But basically, it's that kind of early in jiu-jitsu day one stuff where you catch the wrist, drive it to the mat, slide underneath, catch that double wrist grip, paint down, lift the elbow. And there's a bunch of ways to do it. And it's a very simple move, and it's one that you can teach somebody and they can use it on day one, and especially guys who are like bigger and stronger and good athletes, they kind of like hone in on that move early. And then you don't really see it getting hit like black belt against black belt very often, especially in the same weight class. So I was like, oh, this is kind of a garbage move. And it always frustrated me because I was a smaller person. So when guys would try to like UG and Americana at me, I got like a big complex in my brain of like never letting myself get Americana. No matter how big or strong somebody was, I was like, this is not gonna happen because it's a garbage move. So I developed pretty decent defense to it just by really focusing on that. But that said, I think one of the reasons that I was a little bit wrong about this move, so let's talk about, like we're passing, boom, and we get into this pass, very often we're gonna punch deep underhook, deep head control so we can turn the head away, right? And this is like very quintessential jiu-jitsu side control. We might lock our hands, we might stay unlocked, and from here we can progress into armbar looks, or we can wrap and go to our Kimura looks, blah, 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 blah. So there's a lot of good attacks from there. The problem is getting close can be to benefit of both people. If Nico's a good striker and I've gotten him to the ground, and the first thing I do is get as chest to chest as possible, this could be very good for holding him in place, but it might make doing damage very difficult. On the flip side, if I get in the habit of grabbing a wrist right away or pinning a wrist right away, you can see that opens up my body to do other stuff. So I think habit-wise, we always want to be in the habit of grabbing and framing and being able to make space and when we want and close space when we want. And so like, say I get to mount, if my first reaction is punch underhook, grab head and get low, striking's gonna get very difficult. And as much as I'm hugging my opponent can now hug me. And now I gotta work to get back out of here. So you look at this same position again, if my first reaction is wrist, cross wrist, slide, and pin it to the mat, now some good stuff's gonna happen. And now I'm getting practice of holding mount or side control or whatever position with more space in between us. So because I'm getting used to grabbing wrists, that's a really good thing. Generally speaking, there's certain moves like going for Americanas or like going for wrist locks that aren't really gonna show up a lot in MMA, and they're not really gonna show up a lot at the highest level, black belt versus black belt. But by practicing them all the time, by going for a lot of wrist locks, by using a lot of wrist control, I'm gonna be able to set up a lot of good stuff later where I can pin, drop to my elbows, pin, cross, and work for these different looks that all come out of being in good position, maintaining space, and being able to control their body and move their defense around. So it's all those things all at once. So is Americana the best submission in the world to be A+ at? I don't know. Results may vary. But I think for me as a coach, I'm much more encouraging of people going for it because they're getting used, they have a set goal in mind, they're getting used to holding the wrist, they're getting used to dealing with space and their partner being able to move, and they're holding positions while that's happening while they're trying to accomplish something else. So if every single time I get to mount, I just batten down the hatches and hold, I'll get pretty good at holding mount. But if I can hold mount and isolate, and my opponent gets up on a hip, and now I have to deal with this escape series, right? However it may happen, then I'm getting good reps along the way. So maybe I don't become somebody who can submit every single opponent I've ever got with Americanas, but I develop a lot of good skill sets along the way. So this is my official retraction of all Americana haterade that I've poured out in the academy over the last 7 years.